Okay, hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel today. I'm Kevin and today we're back to our First World War topic. So today we are going to talk about the mental and trauma that was caused to the soldiers on the First World War. Or we could say it was the trials and trauma that they had to go through in this time. So for you guys who don't know what the war can bring to a human, so we may see that war is fight and there's a lot of casualties during the fight, right? But it's not just the only things that make the casualties so big in the First World War. The main things that we are going to talk about today is one of the reasons that many soldiers gone missing or kill themselves, or you could say suicide, is that the trials, trauma, and mental wounds. So the trenches were a man-made hell where soldiers lived in constant fear for their life. Some men found the pressures is so unbearable and went insane or run away. But military at that time had no sympathy for anyone who breaking their rules, and the punishment they used for the soldiers who broke those rules are just as harsh and cruel as the war itself. So there were few things that were more terrifying than sitting through days of heavy shelling at the front side of the war. The ground shook like an earthquake, and the incessant roar of explosion is the main reasons that cause so many people going insane. Because it is so loud and noisy, and sometimes it makes you feel fear so that you cannot rest regularly. Around 1 in 50 British trained soldiers suffer from a complete physical and mental collapse known as shell shock at some point in the fighting. At the time of the war, doctors didn't know much about mental and stress or even depression. They thought that the shell shock, which means the sound that the shell caused, the explosion, make the brain from of the soldiers being disturbed, and that's why they are going insane. But they don't know that the main things that cause this problem is that the stress and the depression that having in the soldier's mind for a long time, and of course going along with no rest. Some shell shock victims screamed with convulsions and couldn't talk or think clearly. Others cowered at just the slightest noise and even scared the light. Rest was the only cure, and thousands of men were sent to home after they get the shell shock so that they could get the specialist hospital help. The less fortunate were granted a few quick leaves, but after that they have to get back to the front door. If the prospect of more shelling was too much to bear at that time, the main solution for the soldiers to get out of stress and depression is suicide or desertion. There were thousands of cases of self-wounding or suicide during the war, as soldiers shot themselves in the foot or hacked off a thumb. This thing often happening because of depression and stress. But there is one more hidden reason that we must know, that they want to go home. So why that the soldiers who want to go home wound themselves? This is because they were so scared of the war. And there is the rule in the military of all places that if a soldiers lose or getting injuries too heavy, they are going to be taken back to their home or to the hospital in the back front. Okay, like behind the front line, right? And of course, a man could be sent home for good, but army doctors has a strict orders to define who is the real soldiers who get injured during the fight and who is the soldiers who wound themselves to get home. And of course, anyone who has caught could expect a harsh treatment in a prison hospital swiftly followed by military trial. desertion or going AWOL, or we could say absent without leave, is one of the most serious crimes in any army at the First World War. After a military trial that was often over in a minute, when a soldier is going desertion and has been caught, a day's soldiers could be sentenced to death by firing sword. Dozens of the others' crime could also be penalized by the death sentence, including self-wounding, cowardice, or falling asleep on the sentry duty. According to the official claims, the British had already shot 346 soldiers, the French is 133, and the Germans is 48. But the real number is far more beyond these things. And of course, there is also the threat punishment. For drunkenness and other petty crimes, offenders will usually give extra work duties or a short period behind bars. But in British soldiers, in British military, soldiers who misbehave in this way could be, tied up. Yeah, it's simply just tied up and they were put at some place for hours. Or we could call this punishment field punishment number one. They are going to be strapped or strapped to a post for several hours. This is the punishment that could be considered as a torment, because the way that they tie you up and leave you in just a place for hours make it become a humiliating way to punish soldiers, but also creating the fear inside them, because if a shell attack, or you could say a bomb attack, a sky attack from the enemy is coming, so nobody will care about them and they will just run, and that way they will going to being hit by tons of shell. All right, so this thing is a mental torment for the soldiers who don't follow the British military rules, as they couldn't run for cover if a stray enemy shell attacked. However, there is some exception during the war. Many people has gone insane or run away from the war, but there is also many people who choose to be soldiers and fight to the end of their life. The threat of punishment only partly explains why so many men put up with the change. Most soldiers showed incredible resilience and determination to finish their duties, and they stayed because they believe in the victory, in what they are doing, the meaning of their action, and also because of the pride that they don't want to let their family and their friends down. Alright? So this is about the exception of the trials and trauma that the soldiers at the First World War have been through. But also, this is just a small number, because compared to the amount of people who tried to leave the war, it was nothing. But still, it showed that at that time there are many people who is still having their meaning. They know what are they doing and they want to fulfill their duty. But besides that, it's also the remind for the world that the war is something very powerful and dangerous. Yeah, it's cruel and it's brutal. It's caused several mental health and also trauma for the soldiers and even the citizens. So that is the meaning of our topic today. The trials, the trauma, and the meaning that war should not be, war should not happen again. And this is the consequence that cause to the soldiers' mental health when they coming into a brutal and merciless war. Okay, so that's all I want to talk with you guys today about my topic of trials and mental problems. And now I think it's time for us to say goodbye and see ya.